T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All three engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Coach on Fire Radio.
I am the tide, dancing through the fire. I am the champion, and you're gonna hear me roar.
This is Coach on Fire, High Performance Leadership with your host, Stephen Bryant. Hi, I'm Stephen Bryant. I am a John Maxwell certified coach, trainer, and speaker. I also host this radio program, which can be found on iHeartRadio and Spotify. And would love to have you do this for me. If you listen, just leave a comment, because I'd love to hear what you think of the show, some comments, whatever you'd like to put down there, because it helps me to understand where I can help you, how I can make this show a little bit better. And we're bringing to you some amazing guests. So again, would love to have you listen. That's on iHeartRadio and Spotify, as well as the blurb that will be featured every Wednesday for my show on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook as Stephen Bryant, on LinkedIn with the same name. I'm on Instagram as well, PastorMan007, as well as Twitter, Steve Bryant 007. On Facebook, I also have a coaching page, which I'd love to have you join. I post every day with some leadership tips and coaching that I hope will benefit you. Again, I want to talk to something that is really close to my heart, and actually a project with the founder and Coach on Fire radio network, Michael Brooks. We have put together what is called the Shining Mickey Awards. And this is a project to honor small to medium nonprofits, as well as B Corps and 503s in the United States. And this is to honor nonprofits with their imagination and creativity. And this will take place in February in the beautiful area of Anaheim called Disneyland. And remember a quote by Walt Disney: "It's kind of fun to do the impossible." And this is what's happening with a lot of nonprofits, is they're doing the impossible. So before we start the show, www.shiningmickeyawards.vip, and click on that link. If you have any questions about that, again, those links I just gave you with Facebook, with LinkedIn, Instagram, PastorMan007, Twitter, Steve Bryant 007. Would love to hear from you. And it's always great to have the audience come back and say, "Hey, Steve, listened to your broadcast, loved it," or "I would like to have you talk about this." So this makes it more interesting for you. And so tonight's guest, coming up shortly. I've got a special person with me today. His name is Marshall Faulk. Marshall, is great to have you with us, so welcome to Coach on Fire.
Thanks for having me.
Marshall, wanted to talk to you about three things. We just mentioned that a few moments ago about your foundation and where this is Coach on Fire, High Performance Leadership. I wanted to ask you a little bit about leadership from a pro football level and how you see leadership, and then we're going to talk about and how we've been connected is with the Shining Mickey Awards. So again, great to have you. And so Marshall, you were born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. Tell me a little bit about that and how this your upbringing has brought you to the work that you're doing today.
Well, I grew up in kind of a rough part, the 9th Ward, Desire Housing Projects in New Orleans, Louisiana, and through the upbringing, really didn't see or had much from a philanthropy standpoint, providing any type of resources back when I was growing up. And just when I made it, I started to think and wondering, why not? How come? How come ghetto beyond sports figures or their parents, nothing is being done for them, or nor are role models being provided. And I wanted to make sure that, because I understood a lot was done to help me become a success in my life, I wanted to make sure that I was giving back to my community and the other communities that helped grow me from a boy to the man that I am today.
Sounds great. So in growing up, Marshall, can you name a person, if you're thinking back to your days growing up, and then the transition to football and college, could you pinpoint a person that might have been you could pinpoint as the mentor in your life?
I had several, and I'll tell you the two that had the biggest influence on me. One was my Little League basketball coach, Chris Douglas. He was a guy that he basically and took me on my first trip. I think I was 12. We went to Mississippi. It was the first time I left the state of Louisiana, and this man teaching us not just how to play basketball the right way, but how to conduct yourself in the right way. He set rules and had expectations of how we were supposed to act, and wanted to make sure that we were not that people give to kids that come from the inner city. And the other guy was my high school football coach, Wayne Reese, teaching me how sports and life are parallel, and that giving up in sports, that person is usually going to give up in life. How to accept losing, not just wanting to win. How to be respectful of your opponent. Just all the things that make you a good competitor and make you a good athlete. Those very same things apply to being a good person in life as well.
Sounds a lot like John Wooden. I read his book, and a lot of kids growing up lack those people in their lives, those mentors that can teach them some of the things that they need to know for life. Almost like a life coaching. I was talking actually with some young people, probably about a couple months ago, sitting around having breakfast together, and I said, they're millennials, and I'm one of those old baby boomers. They said, in going through school and things like that, what is the one thing that you wish you had that you didn't have? And a couple of them said, we didn't have the mentor or the mentors that we wanted. And I said, is that something that you could use even now? And they said, of course. So having these people in our lives, and those people that will come around and literally put their arm around your shoulder and say, hey, I'm here for you. And it's obvious, Marshall, that you had those, at least those two people that you said stand out in your life. So from there, what was your thoughts? I'm sure I could probably guess what they were when you were drafted by the NFL.
Well, I wish I could just put it in one sentence for you, but I'll try to explain it as I have many a time. It's life altering. It's dream come true. It's real reality TV. And that's how it plays out. If you're a professional athlete, you get drafted. People see that you're drafted. They know that your life has changed, and the people around you lives change. And then it's up to you to conduct yourself in a manner and grow in a process with resources that you never had in your life. So as it was the best time in my life, it was equally one of the toughest times in my life, because as money does, people worry about it changing you, but more than anything, it changes the people around you. And trying to make sure that your family is taken care of, trying to make sure that you make the right decisions so So whatever you make in the time that you play can last you, or you can use that to build wealth. It's a tough task. And a lot of athletes don't really get involved with it as much. They leave it up to other people. And if you do that, sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. I was the type of person who wanted to be a little bit more hands-on, and I took everything that I was getting, and I wanted to be involved. And with that, a lot of the lessons were learned. So, as I said, a great time in my life and also a difficult time in my life, but I wouldn't have had it any other way. I got a chance to live out a childhood dream and play a game that I love.
And, one of the things that really caught my attention when you're talking about is that each and every one of us, face some difficult challenges, and it's how we navigate through those, or how we deal with not only challenges, but sometimes, we think that things are supposed to be going a certain way, and they don't always. It's how we deal with those types of things. So again, you have been a real standout on the football field, and definitely with this foundation, Marshall Faulk Foundation. Tell me a little bit about that and how you get started. What was the catalyst that got you started on this, and what can you tell me about this foundation?
Well, the catalyst, as I said, was pretty much understanding that a lot was done for me to get where I am today, or where I was at the time. And I knew I wanted to give back. I wasn't sure exactly how. And being in San Diego, watching the late Junior Seau have an impact on his community in San Diego, the things that he was doing, I looked at it immediately and said, I want to do that. And having that impact and giving back and creating programs and opportunities for kids to see things other than what they see in their neighborhoods was something that I was exposed to, and I know what it meant to my growth in life. And I know I wanted to provide that to other inner city youth. So my rookie year, I started with the football camp. Then we started doing golf tournaments. We created different things for kids to be a part of, homework clubs, and it continued to grow. It morphed into being able to create a school in San Diego. In St. Louis, called the Live for Life Academy, all the way to being in San Diego, helping to create and grow the Boys to Men Academy, which is an after-school program for fatherless and homeless youth that are struggling in school, just to give them direction. So all the things in my life that I had been through, and the experiences I had kind of motivated me to create this foundation to empower and help and educate inner city kids so that they know that they are not alone. It's been done before, and they can do it.
Wow, that sounds fascinating. So how much, now that you're retired from the NFL, what do you do as far as hands-on with this foundation? Whether
it's going to the Boys and Girls Clubs that we work with, the YMCA that we work with, or going to a school and participating with the kids in the after-school program, telling them my story or stories that I had while trying to grow up. I stay active. I do a golf tournament. We fundraise. Most of my speaking engagements, what I do is I piggyback and have half the proceeds usually donated to the foundation, instead of just having it outright paid to me, to help fund a lot of the things that we do for the kids.
Sounds wonderful. So in your work through the years, what is there anybody or any child that really stands out as to, from this point where you start off, or do you have that opportunity to follow that child's or a group's progress through the time from when you meet them